what's going on, everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know what it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast, wishing you guys a very, very happy Thursday, January 20th. And before we jump into it, guys, this band, Sounds and Scenarios, that we have in the podcast today, this podcast covers so much range. We start out with, the history of the band and really going deep into how they connect with the music they do. Then the songwriting style, show, don't tell. It is just something incredible to really dive deep into the mindset of what makes a good song and what makes a song that sticks with so many people. Then we talk about their brand new song, Stalemate. We go deep into the meaning of it. But as we go deep in the meaning of it, I'm not going to lie, all hell breaks loose in the best. Wait, did I say breaks loose? Breaks loose in the best way possible. So many funny stories are had, and you better believe we're doing a part 2 of this one. But before we get jumping into it, I want to thank our sponsors. First, Phoenix Fitness. Yes, it is January, so you might be on that New Year's resolution kick of getting, back in the gym, getting in shape, getting buff like Arnold, yeah. So you're going to want to go to the gym, you want to keep doing that, but you're going to want to make sure you prepare right, you recover right, that you can, get the gains you want, become the healthy you that you want to become. That's where Phoenix Fitness comes in with different products like their pre-workouts, both Sim and Sim Free, to help fuel your workouts. I use the Sim Free stuff because I got enough energy as it is. You can also use their BCAA recovery compounds to help you recover better, proteins to build muscle for your AM, PM, and directly after your workout, creatine to help with muscle growth as well, multivitamins, anything you might need to achieve your fitness goals. Phoenix Fitness has for our listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast and the viewers on YouTube. Get 15% off at fnxfit.com using the code MSOTD at checkout. So thank you, Phoenix Fitness, for that one. And I also want to thank our sponsor, Custom Debuts. So you guys know I love all the crazy stuff I have on the walls, on my 30 Seconds to Mars posters, my Rise Against posters, my Ice Nine Kills poster, my signed Ronnie Radke one that's right above here, and then the skate decks, all that stuff. But if I want a custom poster, I'm going to Custom Debuts, and I should do that because with how much great music there was in 2021, how cool would it be to have a custom Welcome to Horrorwood poster right back there? What I do is I go to customdebuts.com, I tell them what album I want or what song I want from what band, any band you want, and they will come with a custom poster for you around the album artwork or from the song as well, the song lyrics, and they will come up with like this proof within 48 hours that you can look at, and it's like, okay, do you like it? Yeah, perfect. Do you not like it? You want to make some tweaks? Tell them what to tweak, and they will do it for you. And when you're set ready to go, give them the thumbs up, and they will send it to you either on classic poster paper, like any poster you buy, or you can get it as a canvas print, or even as an aluminum sign to be the coolest person in your office, for your rec room, for your anything. Be the coolest person with your own custom music poster. So our listeners get 10% off using the code CPP10 at customdebuts.com. Link description to the podcast below. So thank you, Custom Debuts, for that. And now, everyone, the first part of the podcast with Sounds and Scenarios. And let me tell you, it's insightful, it's incredible, and then it gets absolutely hysterical. I fall out of my chair during this one, guys. I have to go on the ground and hold myself together because I'm laughing so hard. That's what happens during this podcast. So enough with me. Let's go! Oh yeah, partner. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast, you definitely know that we subscribe to the mantra that emo is not dead, and these guys are showing it once again. They have a brand new song out called Stalemate and a cover of Hey Jealousy by the Gin Blossoms out right now. So please welcome Tyler and Braeden from the band Sounds and Scenarios. So guys, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Man, thanks for being on, guys. So now that we're into 2022, how's everything going for you guys so far as we begin the year?
Other than COVID, fine. No complaints thus far.
Yeah, same. I mean, kind of what Tyler said, given the circumstances, things are going pretty well, I think, yeah.
Also, you think about it, it could be worse. This could be March of 2020 again.
Oh, dear God, don't even get me started. I had COVID in March of 2020. So this was, of course, before the vaccines were out, before there was proper testing. I went to the ER, and they told me word for word, we can't test you because you're not in our target demographic. I guess their target demographic was immunocompromised and old people or something like that. So you're not in our demographic, and even if you were in our demographic, we don't even have the test at the moment. So yeah, it was so shit.
Back in the day, those were the times.
And then, of course, the great toilet paper brigade,
Oh, yeah. I just remember going to the grocery store like the first 2 weeks, like of the whole entire shutdown, and it was just that way where all the toilet paper was gone everywhere you looked. I'm just like, but what if I need to go to the bathroom? I'm screwed. I'm completely screwed. I'm using napkins.
Yeah, I lived right by a 7-Eleven. Same thing. It was horrible.
But at least we're, in a better spot at the moment, I should say. At least we're in a better spot at the moment.
Amen.
Take the little wins. The little wins. You know what I mean? That's what I've taken from the past 2 years. Gotta take
Amen.
away.
Absolutely. Take the little wins as they come. But I mean, over the past 2 years, you guys have had a chance to, really work on your music with Sounds and Scenarios, especially, you release your EP. Maybe someday will bloom back in 2021. You've got 2 new singles out now. So you guys have really, it seems like from what I've seen, taken the time of the past 2 years with the whole entire COVID pandemic, with the shutdowns, with live shows not being a thing, and then being able to come back, mid to late 2021, being able to take that time to really create music, focus on what you guys want to do with the band, and then just run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny because back in 2019, we dropped an EP called While You Roam, and we were like touring for it extensively. We were doing a bunch of like shows, not only in Boston, but also it was our first time playing in New York. It was our first time playing in like, did we play in Connecticut? I don't remember if Connecticut was 2019 was our first time in Connecticut. And, we basically hit all the New England like spots, all the New England states. And it was great. And so we did 30 shows in 2019, which included 3 tours. And then in 2020, we did 3. We did 3 shows. And so it was wild to see everything kind of just happen the way it did. We were planning on a Midwest run. We were going to hit like Chicago for the first time because that was our top city at that point, according to the Spotify data, apparently. So Chicago, we were going to go to Chicago for the first time. We were going to hit, like Pennsylvania for the first time. And it just didn't happen, obviously. And then after that happened, our drummer, who was originally from Singapore, he went back home to Singapore to be with his family. Thus, basically, he exited the band. And then we parted ways with our guitarist at the time, and we were like on the verge of breaking up. Like it was just me and our bassist Avery left, and Avery, of course, wasn't able to join us tonight. But yeah, Avery and I were just like, we were confused as to where we were going to go. And I was like, hey, man, what do we do? And he was like, well, I love playing music with you. I love that I get to work with you. Like, I love that I get to work with one of my, dearest friends. And I was like, yeah, same thing. So we kept Sounds and Scenarios going, just the 2 of us. Dropped the Bloom EP, dropped a bunch of other stuff, including a split, another single back last year called When the Fame Goes to Die. And then dear old Braeden joined the ranks a few months later.
Recent addition,
Yeah, Braeden's the baby of the group at this point. Braeden joined our ranks. He was on our first tour back, and it just felt right, so we hired him basically right on the spot. And that brings us to now. So we were very busy for basically not being able to do anything. So, but yeah, the Bloom EP, we did that all ourselves. We did that all ourselves. And we actually recorded that EP socially distanced. Same with like Fame, like When the Fame Goes to Die. Same with the split EP that we did. It was a challenge. The COVID brought a lot of different obstacles into what we were doing, but I would like to think that we managed it fine, or at least I'd like to think we did.
Well, I mean, taking a look at the fact that you released new music, you got an EP released, and then you have new singles that are coming out as well. And you did, again, with that EP, you did it socially distanced. There's a lot to unpack there with what you just kind of ran through with what you did between the time, the pandemic hit and now. So I got to jump to Braeden on this one because with you not being the band until 2021, I got to ask, how did you get to like actually play with these guys on their first run back and then all of a sudden basically get hired on the spot to be in Sounds and Scenarios? Like, how did this all happen? Because I love stories.
Yeah, I mean, I still feel so lucky that I've had like this opportunity to meet Tyler and Avery. They're best people I've ever met. Just working with them has been amazing. But this last August, I was working at Starbucks, and a coworker I had mentioned that he was offered the touring guitarist part for Sounds and Scenarios. There was a connection for another Starbucks employee that they were going back and forth that Tyler was friends with.
So really, this is a Starbucks conspiracy. That's really what it boils down to.
Exactly. Yes. Had a name drop, But basically the person who was originally going to fill in as a touring guitarist for Sounds ended up falling through. So the position came on to me. I was just happy to be asked. I was super excited. There was some dates lined up. It was just, at the time, like just a touring, fill-in position. We had a few rehearsals together, and the first time I remember meeting Tyler and Avery, it was we were at the Berkeley practice space in Boston somewhere, and I forget what we had to do, but we weren't able to rehearse at that place. We had to
there was some COVID guidelines where we weren't even allowed to practice in that space because Avery and I were former students and Braeden was the only current student in our lineup at Berkeley. So
yeah. So the first meeting, it was a little strange, a little stressful, but we ended up making it work. And I don't kind of from there, I really felt like I could trust Tyler and Avery. I just felt very close with them and felt like a good start to something, So started doing rehearsals some more, everything's going well. And after our first show we had in Connecticut, it was like the very first show back. They asked me to join and I was thrilled, obviously. And I was super excited to have the opportunity, as I said, but I mean, that's just a short rundown of it. It was supposed to be just a touring fill-in guitarist and ended up just working out that way,
Well, it was crazy too. Like when we first met, and I remember telling Avery this, I was like, oh, we got to keep an eye on him because like something's very special about him. It was like catching up with an old friend. Like Braeden and I had literally never met before, but like we hit it off like right then and there. Same with
I remember us talking on the tee, and it was just like boom, boom, boom. I was like, wow, what's going on?
It was so natural. I don't think I had ever felt like that natural with any other bandmate other than Avery before. So it was just it was really wild.
Mm-hmm.
Just really hitting on the chemistry right then and there. That's a huge important thing too, because there are plenty of bands out there that, I mean, whenever you're going to see those like successful bands and get the longevity of success, there's always some form of chemistry that really sits in there so that, when it comes to working together, because when it comes to working in a band, as the band grows, it is your passion, is what you want to do, but also it becomes a business at that point. And you have to have the
100%.
chemistry there to fully understand how to work with everybody, how to work when it comes to shows, when it comes to recording. And then if you enjoy being around those people and enjoy playing with those people all throughout that time, it makes it so much easier to handle both the enjoyment and the entertainment side of being in a band, along with the business aspect of it as well.
Well, what's crazy too is that Sounds and Scenarios as an entity has been around since 2015, and that was because I started Sounds as my solo project. I was like just shy of turning 18, still in high school, and I had played in like a couple bands before, but I was just like, I wonder what it would be like to kind of just do my own thing. So Sounds and Scenarios started as like my solo project, and then over time I was like, it would be really nice to not just have it be me. Because, I kind of get stuck in the same ideas all the time. And then that's ironically when I went to Berkeley. That's when I met Avery. And, we had a bit of like a revolving door lineup for a bit. But, the three of us at this point, we're really happy with where we're at. I've never felt so like proud, so enthusiastic about anything like, musically. So I'm just happy. I'm happy to be here too. And Sounds, we're going into our 7th year. Sounds and Scenarios is 7th year, so I'm just glad that it's still kicking and that a project that I started when I was 17, it turned into this. I'm grateful.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing you said there is just enthusiasm behind it, because if you're not super duper like, all jazzed up and excited to go in and do something like this and really continue it on, then of course, potentially when things come up, it could fall by the wayside. But if you have that enthusiasm, you have that complete attitude of, this is what I want to do, this is what makes me happy in life, and this is what I am really happy for, just keep driving it, because then you have something happen like a pandemic where all of a sudden live shows get taken away and you're still excited about doing this, and it's a thing that drives you forward and keeps you going, potentially in times where, especially the pandemic with uncertainty, especially in 2020, early 2021, where even for myself, I was sitting there just looking at online, I'm like, when am I going to get to go see a live show again? I need to get into a mosh pit, and I need to potentially get the shit kicked out of me or kick the shit out of some people for all the fun of it. But of course, someone falls back down, you pick them right back up, and you just keep going at it again.
Yeah, to touch base on the enthusiasm about the material, that was a big selling point for when Braeden joined. Avery and I, we noticed that he was just really feeling the music. We also showed him like a bunch of other stuff that we were potentially working on for like demos and stuff, and Braeden was like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do. And
I did want to say something about that. When my friends were showing me their songs, but when I just had the option to join as a touring guitarist, they were showing me their songs on Spotify. I couldn't believe it. Like I couldn't believe the hooks and the production. I blew me away. And then the new stuff they're showing me, I was such a fan, like immediately. And for me to like walk into a project and just feel so passionate about it, I've never had that with like another thing before. And so is really just right from the bat. Like I felt, this whole thing was just very different. This is very, very passionate about it. And it's exciting to be a part of, you know what I mean?
No, I know what you mean. I kind of want to unpack a little bit more of that as well when it comes to you, Braeden. So when it comes to the fact that you were just like super excited about this and really could get into the music as well, when you were growing up, was this kind of like more emo alternative rock music kind of the thing that you really got you going into music, was really something that you got excited for? Or how did this all transition to the point where when you started playing with Sound Snares, when you got to listening to them on Spotify and being able to play that first show with them before Tyler and Avery are like, fuck it, we need this guy in the band. This is it. We need it. Like, how did this all work to get you into this kind of music?
That's a very accurate representation of what we said, by the way.
Yeah.
But like I have a real long history in like heavy music, heavy metal, guitar music. That's what I got my start on when I was like 13 playing guitar. I was playing in heavy metal bands in Pittsburgh and doing my own thing with that. And I've always with metal, I've always lacked like there's like a charm or like a hook that's always kind of missing. So I love metal, I love it, but there was always something that wasn't there for me. And I feel like when I heard their stuff, it kind of introduced what was always missing for me. Because it had like the intensity and energy that I always looked for with metal music and heavy music, like whatever you want to call it. But it had also like the knowledge that it needs like a great hook to survive, and it needs like a riff. It needs something to like bite into. You know what I mean? And with every sound song, I heard that. Like I heard kind of what I would call like the sound I was kind of like looking for, like listening for, just like good riffs, good hooks, good lyrics, good melody, everything. And it was just kind of like a perfect combination of that. Like, I don't know, just all of my years of listening experience from when I was like a teenager listening to metalcore, that stuff, it gave me I feel like the necessary knowledge to kind of maybe help, you know what I mean? And bring my own sort of thing to this.
Right. It's really crazy that you mentioned that too, Braeden, because that's my exact story too. And I think that just goes to show like how you and I were basically destined to fucking play music together. But yeah, same thing. I grew up listening to like Metallica, Megadeth, Black Sabbath, Queen, and I was never the shredder type, but I loved, just writing out cool riffs, writing out great hooks, but it was never quite metal. What I was doing was never quite metal, but I really wanted to be a metal musician, and that completely changed when I was 15. I saw All Time Low in concert, and obviously, they're kind of canceled at this point because of everything that happened with Jack. But I got it for what it was worth at the time. They were the band that pointed me in this direction because I was like, they're having such a great time on stage. Their chemistry is like off the charts. They have great melodies. They have great hooks. It's just crazy, how you and I kind of have that similarity in that sense. Because after that show, I never looked back. I never considered myself a metal musician again. So
it's interesting, like metal, but not metal, because that's always what I try to go for. Like I try to have the intensity with the riffs and the drums and the energy, but I never could fully commit to metal because I know that's not what I was really trying to do. You know what I mean?
And that's why, back in in the mid 2010s too, obviously like All Time Low was my favorite band throughout my high school years and stuff like that. But all of a sudden there was this boom of like heavier pop punk bands like The Story So Far, Neck Deep. I loved Transit. They're not heavy, but they used to be. And, I loved all of that shit. I loved like, it was angsty, but it was heavy and intricate. I remember hearing Life's Not Out to Get You by Neck Deep for the very first time, and my mind was just completely blown because that's exactly what I was trying to do. I was trying to have heavy riffs. I was trying to have great choruses and great lyrics and stuff like that. That's what I was trying to do. And, that I basically borrowed, not just Neck Deep's, but I would say like I borrowed The Story So Far's element, Knuckle Puck's element, basically every like big pop punk band between 2013 to 2015, like the Wonder Years too. I literally just took that and I was like, I'm going to write music now that sounds exactly like this. And that's basically, that's how Sounds and Scenarios came to be.
That's just intense just to hear about how both of you guys had never even met until, 2021. And when it came to getting the kind of music that you guys like, you basically went down such similar paths. And the reason why you connect so much of the music that you're writing now and the music that you like is based on something very similar. And like Braeden, what you were talking about when it comes to, with metal, you get the heaviness in there, but there was something that was missing for you to like kind of like sink your teeth into and really hold on to in each song and just have that thing where when you listen to it, it's gonna be that thing that just hooks you in like that. And even for myself as well, I listen to, more like, the more classic metal stuff like Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, listen to some of the thrash metal stuff like Megadeth, Anthrax, Slayer, Metallica. Even for myself, it's like, yeah, I can still listen to it, but there's something there that I just cannot really latch onto. There's got to be some sort of hook there. So I like when it comes to metalcore, I absolutely love Motionless in White. Ice Nine Kills is one of my favorite bands because it's just there's something to latch onto right there. Otherwise,
Ice Nine Kills is Avery's favorite band too. He would have gotten a kick out of that.
No, right now in my list of my favorite bands of all time, Ice Nine Kills comes in at number 2. Number 1 will forever and always be Rise Against.
Yep, loved me some Rise Against. Yeah,
they're super solid.
God, I can't wait to go see him in April again because I saw him I was like, okay, I haven't seen him in 2 years. All of a sudden, 2021 hit. I got a chance to see him 3 times in 3 weeks, and I'm like, I'm not looking back from this shit. Like, I'm going full force. This is it.
They were another entry into punk music for me because I was more before I found like pop punk and All Time Low. I heard bands like Rise Against, and I was like, oh, that's really really sick because like it's heavy and it's in your face and political and stuff like that. But it wasn't oh my god, I don't know the word for it, but it was just so cool for me at the time, and that was kind of like my gateway into the music I eventually would find and eventually would start writing.
That was the same thing with me as well with Rise Against, because it was like, otherwise I was listening to like, of course it was at first, it was like, okay, what was everyone else listening to? Then all of a sudden, Guitar Hero came out. I got really into Disturbed because I love David Draymond's voice. And then all of a sudden I got into high school and I heard Savior for the first time, and I just latched onto it because, yeah, with Rise Against, you listen to other punk rock stuff, it does have that political charge in your face, that energy, that angst, especially some of the older stuff. The newer stuff has more of this polished look to it, so it's a little bit more refined. But I think that what the difference comes in from a lot of punk bands compared to Rise Against is Rise Against, it's just that refined thing where it's going to have that thing that just you can latch onto and brings you in. That's not going to be so like heavily just out of tune, distorted, just angsty. There's going to be some refinedness there to really bring you in and actually engage you mentally instead of just something like that.
I think that's what you go ahead.
No, Braeden, by all means.
Oh, go ahead. Okay. So I think like a similarity that sounds in Rise Against here, which you're like kind of pointing on, is you can feel the emotions in the vocals. You can feel like the lyrics. A lot of times with metal, specifically Megadeth, because you said that the lyrics and melodies feel very like thin, hollow. There's not a whole lot to unpack there. Yeah. But with someone like Rise Against, I mean, the lyrics they write, they're you can feel when I forget the vocalist's name.
Tim McElrath.
Yeah, Tim.
Him. He sings it when you write. I mean, you can really feel it, and that's kind of what separates those kind of projects from what I'd consider metal that I used to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and even with you kind of touched base on it, Braeden. I mean, something that I take really seriously when it comes to Sounds and Scenarios is we are very hard on our sleeves as a band when it comes to our lyrics, when it comes to the music, because when I was 15 and 16, I was looking up to bands like that who were always like, they always had a message, maybe not political, but like one of those kind of like, hey, it's okay to not be okay sometimes. I really latched onto that because, growing up in Vermont when I was still trying to kind of find myself and everything, it was a little tough. So it was just cool to have that music basically there for me when no one else was, and that's what Sounds and Scenarios, or that's what we hope Sounds and Scenarios will be someday. It's just like something that, yeah, fingers crossed, right? That's we just hope that people just latch on to it. I always make my lyrics. My philosophy as a lyricist is show, don't tell, because I have a lot that I want to say, and I have a lot that I want to talk about with what's going on like within me. But I don't want it to be like a selfish thing. I don't want it to be like I'm writing music for me. I want to write music for everybody. And I think that's what makes sounds so special, is that not only I have that, mentality, but Braeden has it and Avery has it. And it's perfect. So emotion is very, considering that we're an emo band, emotion is very important.
I mean, I remember the first time you brought that up to me, Tyler, your writing philosophy, the show don't tell. I've said that to so many people. I'm like, Tyler is he always says this, and it really opened my mind. It changed my philosophy for lyric writing. I've always had such a hard time writing lyrics, and that phrase, it really opened a lot up for me. Yeah,
I took that from Scarlett Keyes, man. Scarlett, she was one of my songwriting teachers at Berklee. She was also Charlie Puth's personal mentor for a bit, like before he graduated and did the Charlie Puth thing. Stoked for that new song, by the way. I'm really excited for when it comes out. But no, Scarlett was, when I first was going to her class, she understood me like to a T. She knew exactly, which when I was going to Berklee, there were times where I felt like I was the only like emo kid there, other than like Avery and like a couple other people that we knew. So I always felt like I was doing something different compared to everyone else at school, because everyone else, a lot of the Berklee stereotypes are true, in the sense of there's a lot of jazz heads there and a lot of metal heads there. So I was kind of like, I like Blink 182.
That's a very hard niche to fit in there.
It is.
You can't go around telling people that.
I got so mad when more emo kids started coming. Like when I was getting closer to graduation, I was like, God damn it! But no,
the way though. That's what's, you know what I mean.
I was ahead of the curve. I did my best. But
You're
no,
here. Emo is coming.
But oh my God, Braeden, I love you. But anyway,
beautiful.
Yeah, no, Scarlett Keyes understood me like right when I was in her class, because she, I showed her the songs that I would be working on and stuff, and she got it, and she was very like helpful with everything. Same with one of my other professors, George Woods. He also knew basically what I was going for. And he kind of provided a lot of the same advice that Scarlett did, just like show, don't tell, write how you're feeling, but don't like be too personal about it. Because that's, and when we talk about the lyrics in Stalemate later on, that's something that I really tried to do with Stalemate. So it's just something that's very, it's that way it's more universal. It's that way everyone gets it. And that way I can kind of project that feeling that I had when I was younger, being like, I like how this band is kind of like saying how I feel. So I think that makes sense.
It does make sense. I think I'm going to start using that show Don't Tell as the example, or as the title, as the full on just this is what it is, as how I kind of see when it comes to listening to music, writing music, why people connect with certain songs. And the reason being is because when you're saying show, don't tell, if you want to tell something, if you want to explain a personal experience, something, you're not going to want to tell it word for word. The reason being is because if someone has not gone through that very specific thing that you have gone through, if you go too specific, people are going to really struggle to relate to it because, oh, I can't fully relate to this because I did not go through that exact same thing. However, if you're way, way, way too broad and you're way too abstract with it, if I'm trying to follow along the song, I don't know what the heck you're trying to talk about. I don't know where you're trying to go with it. So I'm kind of lost in space trying to figure out. But if you show me what you're trying to say by using metaphors, by not being as specific, but trying to pull out the emotion of that, what it's going to end up doing to me as a listener is it's going to have my mind boil that what you're singing in the lyrics, what you're singing in the song, and how the instrumentals are playing. It's going to have me boil it down to some certain core feeling or emotion that the song is portraying. So what you went through personally is going to have this core emotion to it. Myself, I'm going to be able to take that core emotion and then relate it to my own experiences. So then I connect to the song the same way that you did when you wrote it. However, we went through two completely different things, but it's that core emotion that's at the center that you're trying to show, which is what we all connect with. And that's why so many people can connect with your songs.
And I was a theater kid when I was, growing up. And so the thing that I always heard was acting is reacting. So I would kind of say, I think musically the show don't tell thing is like the equivalent of that. Because, no one's going to give a fuck if you put in like personal details about yourself in a song. I hate to say it. I don't mean to be a dick, but no one's going to care.
It's just the reality of it. No one's going to care as much as they do about themselves as someone else, and much less from song lyrics. You got to play to who's listening, and who's listening
exactly
the general audience, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Because there's a band that I recently interviewed. They're called All Systems Go. They're from New Jersey, and the song they released when you know them?
I do, yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, one of the songs they released was called The One We Ride Off Into the Sunset. It's about the lead singer and his girlfriend. It's about the time when they met up until, they got engaged. And it's like in the verses, they're a little bit more specific in that. But then you get to the chorus, and then it's this full-on just show the emotion of like what it is to like fall in love and just really understand that. So, and the long
see, that's a perfect
That's kind of how it went.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
Oh,
and that's the perfect contrast too, as coming from a lyricist perspective, because if you're talking about something that's important to you, like a relationship or like, something that matters to you, it's not a bad thing to like talk about it. But when it gets to a point where like it's all you're talking about in your lyrics, that's especially in a chorus. The chorus, if I've learned anything from my time, studying songwriting, the chorus is like the most integral part. That and the bridge are the most integral parts of your song. The verses is really just whatever you want to do with it. But, you gotta hook people. You gotta find something that'll, grab at people, if that makes sense.
And I will add to that with, and Tyler, I mean, they have just such a way of like combining the personal experience with like the general experience and what's the word? And making it like digestible for everybody to like go through that experience with the song. And the lyrics just really like they show that the show don't tell. It's perfect.
I've gone through some shit, but y'all wouldn't know.
You wouldn't tell, no. It's just so well done. Not enough praise. I could not give enough praise for Tyler's lyrics.
I'm blushing over here. I really am blushing.
Oh, and it's even kind of like to speak about that as well at the show don't tell part where you're talking about, you can kind of be more like you kind of just get away with the verses kind of wherever you want, but it's the chorus and the bridge are going to really be the thing that people remember and latch on to. Kind of think about it like a pyramid where it's going to be the most narrow at the top. Think about that, the verses. You can be that more specific, but then as you go on, you kind of get broader and broader from the more specific to just kind of talking about it more generally, metaphorically, so that when people get to the chorus, when you get to the chorus and you're singing about it, yes, it's still going to relate to you personally because you wrote it, you know what it's about, you know where the emotion comes in. But for me as a listener, I'm going to take that and be able to put my own spin on it, put my own personal experiences in it, and then that's how I connect with it even more.
That's the goal. That's the goal every songwriter should have, in my personal opinion. Because, it's one of those things where I remember when I was writing Better Off Without You, which was like our quote-unquote breakout single. It was the first time we had ever gotten playlisted on an editorial for Spotify. I remember when I wrote that, it was about, like a toxic thing that I went through with a friend, but you would never get that from the lyrics. You could definitely sense like the toxicity if you read into it, but you can't tell who it's about. And that's, I remember when that song was really getting around places. I remember we, especially when that song first came out, I would get people to come up to me and be like, I fucking felt that. I felt that because my ex was like this. I felt this because my friend was like this, like my mom or dad or whatever, and that's, I always love talking with people about, the lyrics that I write and the interpretations of it, because my goal is just to make sure that everyone can feel it in some way, shape, or form. That's kind of another, in terms of the show don't tell thing, if you look back at old sound stuff compared to new sound stuff, it is very different because I wasn't doing the show don't tell thing. I wasn't doing that yet. And so I tried to, because I also got that kind of idea from Soupy from the Wonder Years with his lyrics, because he would kind of talk about personal things, but it would kind of be like from a nostalgic point of view. And I tried to do that, but not as well. But, same thing with the Wonder Years. You listen to them and, you hear a song like Suburbia, like the bowling alley burnt down. You don't know about a bowling alley that burnt down, but you feel it, and that's what's important. So.
Yeah, or you can potentially even, work with some of the more specific aspects that people do know, but you can create great songs, even great albums off of it just by the lyrical content and how you look at it. I'll give you 3 examples.
Mhm.
One, take a look at the Holy Hell album from Architects, because if you look through it lyrically and look through it thematically, it's going through the 5 stages of grief from top to bottom that the band went through with the loss of Tom Cyril. But you look at it and you look at each song, and they're not specifically referencing it, but they're definitely referencing the emotions that they went through, and anyone that has gone through grief can definitely relate to it. We'll jump into 2020 with the Ghost Inside self-titled album. Everyone knows that album is what happened with the bus crash and their long return back, and they go through it step by step emotionally, but Absolutely. You can totally put yourself into it, because if you've gone through something that has completely taken you out and you've had to crawl your way back to try and get back to what you love and what you want to do, you can do that. And then their lead single off it, which was the final song on the album, which is Aftermath, it kind of just puts it all in a perspective, and they don't specifically reference it, but it's so powerful with how they do it. Then I'll jump to We Came as Romans with their song From the First Note, because it talks all about the band losing Kyle Pavone. And the reason why I know it absolutely hits on the emotion, because when my grandfather passed, that was a song I listened to. That was the only one that got me emotional, because it talked about just what that person has meant to you and how that person has influenced your life going forward for the positive. And you knew what they were talking about, but way the lyrics and the way the song was written, you can take what they went through, what the song is talking about emotionally, and relate it to you. That's how great songwriting is done.
Yeah. I just want to put in.
No, you go.
I just want to put in a quick side note and say Kyle Pavone died on my 21st birthday, and I was pissed. I was very upset.
That is one hell of a little cliff note to put in there.
Yeah, not because of like a selfish reason. It was more so just like, oh man, because I loved We Came as Romans. I loved what they were doing, with, Tracing Back Roots. I feel like Tracing Back Roots is kind of a slept on record, because that was just melodically, I feel like it's their best, and it's a bit on the accessible side, but it was because like, they were accessible, but they were still like trying to hit what made them in the first place. And so, yeah, I was very into We Car back in the day, so I feel that. Braeden, you were saying, I'm sorry. I just wanted to throw in that personal footnote.
I don't know. I think I was saying, if you can't connect with the song thematically, lyrically, there's no point to it, really. I mean, there's a point to it because it sounds good, but that's what makes music like the force that it is. A universal language is being able to like connect with someone that you don't really know what specifically their experience is, how they put. I mean, what you both have been talking about. It's exactly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you even think back to like American Idiot, the Green Day record. That album is a complete like fictional story about this guy, the Jesus of Suburbia, moving away from his hometown and going into a big city, realizing that he doesn't belong there, and a lot of other shit goes down, and then he goes home. And
that's like everyone can grab something from that. Everyone can find something in there that is like a piece of them. Yeah.
We've all been the Jesus of Suburbia at one point. I remember the first time I went down to Boston when I was moving into the dorm, I blasted Jesus of Suburbia in my headphones as we were coming into the Boston skyline, because I was the kid who was moving out of their hometown to go into a big city. So, yeah, songwriting is important. It's important to reach out to a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even for myself as well, there are songs I listen to on very specific occasions for very specific reasons. One that I always do is literally, I've tried this every year now. At the end of New Year's, so New Year's Eve, I believe it's always, if I'm correct, it's usually 11:55 and I believe 50 seconds. I will always start playing Welcome to Black Parade by My Chemical Romance, because if you do it at that time, the final chorus will hit right at midnight. And honestly, there's no way to close out a year better than that. It just hits emotionally on just the fact that, you went through so much in the previous year. Now it's time to kind of put that to a close and look forward to the future with, you got 365 days to really go forward and work with the next year.
That's such a good tradition. Meanwhile, I listen to the New Year by Death Cab and just feel sorry for myself.
Or I'm trying to think of a couple others, and this was one that I did. So before I kind of want to jump into Stalemate, but I kind of want to add this in there. I'll use Rise Against an example. The day before I moved away from my hometown, or from where I lived, to go to Minnesota for college, like the day beforehand, I was sitting on my parents' roof, and I was listening to Swing Life Away by Rise Against, because that's kind of like that end of summer song, winter's so cold, summer's over too soon. Kind of just had the feeling of like, I was ending this whole entire chapter and ready to go into something new, but it's kind of, instead of looking forward at that point because it was the day beforehand or the night beforehand, bringing it to a close. And then, of course, I'm sitting up on the roof, I'm listening to it, and then someone climbs up the ladder, and it's my best friend. He just sits up there with me. Next thing I know, all of a sudden, I hear the door open. Who the hell is up there? And all of a sudden, like, my parents freaking out. I'm like, don't worry, it's just me. It's okay. No biggie.
So what you're saying is that your parents ruined a perfectly cinematic moment.
I'm pretty sure we had moved on to like a different song at that point. So the cinematic moment actually did happen. We were probably listening to something like Papa Roach or something.
Parents involved in themselves, though,
Absolutely. But because you were talking about great songwriting, great lyrical content and everything, well, you got a brand new song called Stalemate that just released. So why don't we jump into that and really take it, go on full on like high school biology class with the frog and dissect this motherfucker and try and figure out everything that went on with it.
Fuck.
So how about we do that?
All right.
So first
I'll let you take this mostly, Tyler. Tyler, I didn't have too much to do with the writing process. I like to think I helped with the mastering, but
yeah, it was funny because Stalemate is technically the first song that Braeden is in the band, but Braeden did not play on it because we had recorded it before he joined.
You wouldn't know, it's a little secret of the trade.
That's how we do.
That'd be how we do there, fam.
He helped with the mixing and the mastering, kind of.
Yeah.
Well, you get a little bit of credit.
We'll bring into that because whenever I go through a song myself, I mean, I'm going to try and go as deep as possible with it. So this is how I always do it. First thing I do is I listen to the song once because, well, I want to just get a feel for it, get an understanding of kind of what to expect on it. Then I go through it like 2 or 3 more times. I pull up the lyrics if I can next to it. If not, I got to figure it out for myself. And then I'll try and figure out the meaning. Once I figure that out, what I think the meaning is, then I'll go through the instrumentals every step of the way, back and forth, try and dissect them, and then try and see if, like, especially with the meaning, I think, okay, how's this all relating to it? How's this all hooking in? How's this going to work? Then I do the same for the vocals, and then once that's over, we kind of complete it all in this nice little press release style bubbles and overall, like, this is what we thought kind of moment.
Yeah.
So, first thing I'm going to go to you, Tyler, is when it comes to Stalemate, what was the inspiration behind the song? What's the meaning behind it? What's the core message behind it? Because I want to see if I got close. And if I got close, how close I got.
All right, grab your popcorn then. Let's go into it.
I just got a water bottle, so.
That's fine. Hydration is key. Hydrate or dihydrate.
Exactly.
So Stalemate, I actually wrote. It's funny because we had just released it, but I wrote Stalemate pretty early on in 2020. I wrote it. So I have to kind of go into a little bit of backstory in my life. So COVID happens. I am instantly not laid off from my job, but my job shuts down. I was, ironically enough, considering how we met Braeden, I was working at Starbucks. I'm telling you, there's a Starbucks conspiracy within this band.
We worked at the same store, too, by the way.
Starbucks, we did. It was like a few months apart. I had left before he had, like our store shut down. I had left. He joined onto their team when they opened back up. For how long did you guys stay open? 6 months? It wasn't very long. I worked
there from like December to like beginning of March because the store ended up closing. I got moved to a different place, but it was the same place we worked at. Yeah.
So Howard Schultz needs to fucking compensate us because of our band history, but we really are like the perfect Starbucks story. But no, so I was working at the Starbucks and the store shut down temporarily because of COVID. And I was living in an apartment that was $1,265 a month. And by that point, I had nothing. And I was about to finish up with Berkeley, too. And it was a whole thing. So I ended up moving back home with my parents, which is where I've been since. And, of course, I'm planning on coming back down to Boston as soon as I'm able to. I just got a job as a pharmacy tech. So fingers crossed. But thank you. I appreciate the lawn and prosper symbolism. I appreciate it.
How about that? I gotta get the thumbs in there too.
Oh god. But yeah, no. So I had to move back home and live with my parents, and it was hard Not that I wasn't appreciative. I was totally appreciative that they let me come back and stay with them like rent free. I was very appreciative of that. But within me, it was really hard to kind of swallow that because for years, because I grew up in Vermont, I was very, very determined to get the hell out because it was not a good place for me. I had so many aspirations. I wanted to go to Berkeley. I wanted to do music for the rest of my life. And Vermont was not a supportive place for that unless I wanted to move to Burlington, but Burlington was kind of expensive. And I was just like, it's not for me, but I always felt connected to Boston. So that's why I went to, obviously, I went to Berkeley, which was my dream school ever since I was like 10. I don't remember. I was young when I first heard about Berkeley, but yeah, so COVID happened. I lose my apartment. I lose my job, come back home with my parents. And a couple months into that, that's when I wrote Stalemate because I was feeling really bummed about it. I almost felt defeated that I had to come home because I was doing so well, going to college and everything. And then all of a sudden it feels like the rug has been slipped out from underneath me, which of course it wasn't my fault in any way. It was because of COVID, but, obviously because I can't change those circumstances, it's hard for me to accept it. So I wrote Stalemate around that basically, and just how I missed my friends. I missed, what I was doing with my life at that point. I missed shows, and I was kind of grappling with my own inner demons at that point too. And so I just kind of wrote it around that.
So kind of like in a way where it seemed like, life was going in one direction. And then because of the pandemic, everything that was going on, you were stuck in one place and were kind of struggling with the fact that you weren't going forward while it seemed like everybody else was.
Exactly. And, and I came back to a place where the joke in my hometown is that everyone gets stuck there somehow. It really is one of those places. And here I am stuck in my hometown. And it was hard. And, a line that kind of comes up to me for that is, it's been so long now and yet you're still proud of the things you should probably regret. I kind of wrote that around, the mentality of I was back in the town that I went to high school in and, I was still surrounded by the kids I went to high school with, moving back in. And, it was just, I regretted having to come up there, but everyone else was kind of still stuck in like, I went to this high school and it was great. And I don't know. I hated that. I did not like who I was in high school. So I very much, I felt lost. So I just kind of wrote, that line specifically around that.
That was kind of one of the lines that when I was listening to it really stuck into me a little bit more. But when I took it, because when you're talking about, like you're in one position, it seems like everyone else is going forward in some way and you just feel stuck. Again, when we were talking about songwriting, when it comes to that like core emotion, I did pick up on that. But then when I went a little bit more like into the deeper knowledge of like what I thought it was, I put this is where you're going to see me put my own twist on it based on my own experiences. And I'll explain why. So and I'm going to read what I wrote because I wrote a 3-page write-up on this. So I don't fuck up anything when I thought about the song because, well, I listen to so much music over the course of the day. I'm like, you know what? If I'm going to do a podcast, I got to write it down. Always do. So I put the meanings about potentially for me, what I thought it was about like a relationship or one person who might be the subject of the song has not fully, moved on or really gotten past a certain point. Well, it feels like this other person has perceived to potentially move away from that relationship overall and moved on from it. It appears that the subject of the song might feel some resentment towards the other because they feel as though like that grief process of a lost relationship should be an equal process for both parties. And yes, that person might be putting up a front to seem like they're okay when in reality they still miss you and feel some sort of emotional pain when memories of you come up to them. And it's kind of all about that stalemate between wanting to move on and not let go of the memories of something you had with someone earlier on in life. And the reason why I went from that aspect with it was because I go back to like 2017, the girl I was dating at the time. Like when I started 2017, everything was fantastic. Everything, like I graduated college, like a world on my shoulders, like world in front of me, everything is going well. Half a year later, everything basically collapsed. And one of the main things that collapsed was this relationship. And as time had gone on, there was another major thing that was keeping me down, which was the job I was working in was basically mentally killing me. That was actually the primary thing of it. But at the time, I thought that this was the primary charge of it, and it seemed like, I was still struggling to actually like put everything together and figure out what was going on. And when I kind of like started to feel like, maybe I made the wrong decision, all of a sudden it felt like she had moved on. And all of a sudden that grief process for me, it was like, okay, now I'm in this fucking stalemate where I'm not sure if to go forward or go, like, what the hell is going on? And just that whole entire mentality of it, I mean, I felt stuck in life. And it went down a deep, deep, dark path. And it was something where after a certain time, it's like, I got to make some sort of a change. I got to make something happen.
Exactly.
And to get out of that stalemate and it like kind of like what you're saying, like get out of that town. For me, it was get out of this position that I'm in. And the whole entire way I got out of that position is by doing this right here. What we're doing. This is how it all came. This is how it all came together.
Love that.
I
great arc.
And I'm glad that you kind of were talking about the being stuck in the position of like, the stalemate, as it were, where like you're moving forward, but you're also kind of not. And that was kind of, if you really look into the lyrics, I use both perspectives and like the person who has moved on to the person who hasn't moved on. And that's another thing too. To kind of relate to I was also in a relationship in 2017 that, it was end of 2017 until like summer 2018. And it was not a good relationship, but I was still like, there were parts of me that missed her. And there was like, it was hard to describe, like, and I knew that it wasn't a good relationship. I knew that she wasn't, that great of a person. I'm not going to go into that whole spiel because, it's not the right place or time, but
episode 2 of our podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, we could definitely do an episode 2. Don't worry about that.
Podcasts and scenarios.
Only relationship issues too. All of our past.
We can do that. I'm totally down with it.
We could just go through our whole discography at that point too. But yeah, no, I mean, and I kind of, my writing style throughout that time too, up until fairly recently, was I was always talking about like that relationship, or I was in 3 back-to-back toxic relationships, and just it was a doozy. And so I was always just thinking to myself, was I the problem? And also like, why do I miss like this person, or like why do I feel so alone when I knew I did the right thing? And that's kind of another thing that influenced the writing in Stalemate too, because Stalemate, while it is primarily about my hometown and how I'm stuck in it again, I borrowed elements from those experiences as well, just like there's no getting out of what we used to be. Do you still think of me, or do you feel more free? And that can apply both to like, do people in my town still think about me and wonder how like things are going for me, or do they not even give a shit? And also that can be applied to like, do any of my exes think that? And, and that's, why I make my songwriting so general, is because I want it to be like everyone can relate to it. I want everybody to like feel where I'm coming from, because it's not exactly, I'm not stuck on one thing or the other. It's more so just like a hodgepodge of like, all this shit happened to me and I need to get it out. So it's, and that's kind of what Stalemate was. Stalemate was just like it's funny because it was my songwriting project I was doing a directed study in songwriting. So that was just like a one-on-one thing with somebody. And this song was like part of that curriculum. And he did like it. My teacher liked it, in case you were curious.
I'm sorry. I got to remember for a second. I want to run to the bathroom real quick. I'll give you 45 seconds.
Yeah, go for it. We'll still talk. We'll still have a great time.
Oh, man. But yeah, no, anyways, that's, in terms of the lyrics in Stalemate, it's primarily about my hometown, but it's also just like, now that I've had all these experiences, being in Boston and doing the stuff I've been doing with sounds and scenarios, it's kind of just like that part of me is fighting with the part of me that's like, knows where I came from, if that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah, so it kind of puts you in this stuck position, because the part of you that you know where you've been before, you know where you can go, versus the part where you are right now, just because you might feel stuck at certain times. Yeah, there's going to be the stalemate between the two, where it's like you're not necessarily sure what to go for. And I think a lot of people that went through the pandemic as well sort of felt that, because there were times where you didn't know what the heck was going on. So exactly. You knew where you were going, you knew what you have experienced, but there's also sense like you can't really do that. Even for myself, it was, during the pandemic, it's like I always loved going to concerts, going to shows. That was my thing. But I don't necessarily resonate with that in the pandemic side of it, because when the pandemic hit, it was like, okay, what can I do to basically like fix that or like take advantage of this? All of a sudden I thought, there's a lot of bands out there that are not touring or not really getting together. They need to find a way to, keep their, fan base up and keep doing anything to kind of keep their name out in the press. Wonder if they want to do a podcast with me. And then I just like full force into it. So like I can, but
and
like
that's
when it comes
to
like the relationship side of things that you were talking about, like kind of throwing their stalemate with me with that one that I went through, like it just like when I was listening to it, especially bringing like some more of the emo style of things, like it just hits. And it is human nature too, from anybody when it comes to a relationship, a friendship, whatever it might be that has, maybe lapsed, passed on, ended. You kind of potentially, sometimes, you flash back to certain memories just because they kind of pop in your head and you wonder if that person does think about you. And that person that, you were with, they might be thinking the same thing too. All of a sudden, on a Facebook post or like on a, a Snapchat memory or something, all of a sudden it's like you see them pop. I was like, I wonder if they actually ever like pick this up too. And like if they think about this moment or if they think about me at all, kind of wondering but that's just kind of human nature too. So you're wondering if they're in that stalemate as well. And now, Braeden, I got to jump to you on this one now that you're back. So, because we kind of talked about how we saw how Tyler wrote it, what his relationship to the song was, how I kind of related to it. When you were, coming to the band and, play with this being the first song that you didn't necessarily play on, but also like mixed and mastered with the band as well.
He gets to bask in the glory.
Get to bask in the glory of stalemate.
Yeah,
How did you relate to this one specifically?
Yeah, I took the lyric as a commentary on a relationship. Until I talked with Tyler, because it was more along the lines of what you were saying, Kevin. And until I talked with Tyler about it, and I asked him what they actually wrote it about, which is their hometown, and I really put that connection together. But what I took from it was just I really related to my past relationships and feeling stuck in them and feeling the need to leave and also feeling the need to stay for that level of comfort. And like I remember first listening to the song, and I mean I still remember the first time I heard that chorus with the lyrics, and it just always stuck with me. It was just so those the lyrics, but that is what I took from it. It was a relationship, was what I based it off of, and that is what I think is really cool about Tyler, not just Tyler's writing, but we are talking about Tyler's writing, so I might as well comment on theirs. But they have a way of just like telling their story, but offering an invitation to put your own meaning to it, which is kind of what we were talking about the whole night. But I mean, it really is the most important part of it for me. And I picked it up with the song like right away, and I knew it was gonna be something.
Well, another thing too, what it boils down to is the genre of music that Sounds and Scenarios does. It primarily deals in relationships, and since that's the music that I had been writing for so many years. Starting in like sophomore year roughly of high school, it's just one of those things where that's always just going to be a part of me. So even though like I'm writing about one thing, I'm talking about another. It reminds me of, not to go off topic with the lyrics, but there's another song in our catalog called Seattle, which is the opening track of our EP, Maybe Someday We'll Bloom. That is actually a song about COVID-19. But you would never get that because I disguised it through the lens of a long-distance relationship.
100%. I can confirm that story because I had no idea what it was about. And I thought it was a long-distance relationship until Tyler.
And then, so once you start kind of like looking into it, there's a couple lines, it's all too late now. The distance keeps on growing. I was talking about the social distancing. Will we ever come back down from this wave before it's crashing? The lingo for COVID at that time was, we're entering a fourth wave of COVID. Of course, now it's all about variants. But at the time, it's like, we're in this wave and that wave. And then, of course, Seattle, it was actually the first spot where COVID was in the United States. That was like the first recorded case. So rather than talking about Seattle as this place where, that's where COVID happened or whatever the hell, I wanted to make Seattle kind of like this escape. In the chorus, it's like, meet me in Seattle when the world starts to die. We can have a drink or two and act like this is paradise. That's just you want to escape with the person that you're with and watch the world burn, basically. Everything's going to shit, but you're with that person.
I know that. when you explained that to me, that just really spoke to me. I remember when you explained it to me, that was something.
And it's the same thing with Stalemate, you know? I mean, Stalemate, it's one of those things where I tend to write a lot from the perspective of having rose-colored glasses sometimes. You know, am I throwing away a good thing? Am I, you know, is the grass really greener on the other side? And that's a lot of the language that was in Stalemate. Because Stalemate was a song, you know, like I said, we had just released it, but Stalemate was a song that I had written back in, I think it was like June of 2020. And it was originally going to be on the Bloom EP, but it didn't make the cut. Then it was going to be on our Split EP, but it didn't make the cut. And then it was going to be like, we didn't really know what to do with it, so we kind of shelved it. Then we brought it back to life. We reworked it. We thought it was going to be like on the new EP that we're kind of working on right now. That didn't happen either. And so all of us were just kind of like, fuck it. We're going to release this song with like a Gin Blossoms cover because fuck it. Why not? It was going to be a Goo Goo Dolls cover. We were originally going to cover Name. And then I went through a Hey Jealousy phase and I was like, yo, what if we did that instead?
It's like, we're going to do Goo Dolls. No. This is what I'm listening to right now. We're covering this.
No, okay, but Name is a banger. I love Name. I love Goo Goo Dolls in general. But,
yeah, kidding.
But yeah, so that's kind of, you know, in terms of Stalemate, you know, it's all about it. I look at things like through the lens of like how emo writers write, you know, and they kind of tend to write a lot in the relationship aspect. And I like to kind of like sneak in my own like stuff in there. And that's, you know, you look at basically any of the stuff that I've written over the last 2 years, 3 years, and that's basically what you get. Every single song has a story. And that's, you know, Stalemate is kind of the one song in our most recent catalog that doesn't necessarily have a story behind it. More so just like, I fucking hate my hometown and I'm still sad about my exes. So I'm going to mesh them together. And that's the song.
Yeah, you're not going to go through that classic like pop. Also, you're not going to that classic like pop punk emo thing where it's just like, and I hate this fucking town. It's like, nah, you're not going to put
because
that in there
everyone's written about how they hate their town. It's not new. If I wanted to listen to Man Overboard, I would listen to Man Overboard, god damn it.
Or if I wanted to listen to All Signs Point to Lauderdale by A Day to Remember, I would do that because it really starts out with, I hate this town, it's so fucked up. Or something like that, all my friends don't give a fuck. That's literally how it starts. Yeah. Not gonna lie though, that song is fucking fun to see live because that's when all the toilet paper gets thrown and you get to have a shit ton of fun with it.
True. Honestly, a lot of the stuff from What Separates Me From You translated really well live. The first time I've seen A Day to Remember twice. The first time I saw them, they did Better Off This Way from What Separates Me From You, and they had a t-shirt cannon with like a mascot guy. Oh, it was fun.
First time I saw him with Better Off This Way, I've seen him 3 times. I've only seen him play Better Off This Way once, and that was their Crowd Surfing the Crowd Surfer song. Now they do it with one of the newer ones, but they always do All Signs Points Lauderdale, and there's always toilet paper flying. Of course, Second Sucks comes in. Well, actually, because we're kind of talking about the relationship thing about, like, especially kind of like how with emo music and especially how Stalemate kind of alludes to that as well. Funny story about that and how A Day to Remember kind of brings that into it. I was at a Day to Remember show. This was in early October of 2021, and I was in the mosh pit. Already had broken my finger at that point, was still going hard because, of course, you know, why the hell not? I forgot what song it was, but all of a sudden, like, I was kind of towards the right side of the pit, and I got knocked towards the edge, and I'm just, like, having fun around there. All of a sudden, the song ends, and I turn to the side, like, just kind of just turn, like, to the crowd, like, not looking at the pit. And all of a sudden, like, there's these, like, 2 girls there. I'm like, okay, you know, like, I smiled at one of them, and all of a sudden, we literally had this moment where it was like, huh? What? And it was my ex-girlfriend from the story I told about. At least I thought it was. And I was like, I hadn't seen her in 4 years. I'm like, no fucking what? And right as I'm about to say no fucking what, all of a sudden, next song starts, and I just get rocked from the side. Could not see that person the rest of the show. I'm like,
that's pretty
I
great.
really would, but I'm just like, that is just hysterical right there. And also because The Day to Remember was her favorite band, so I'm like, this is just way, way, way too wacky of a whole entire day, but it was funny as hell. Just that, wait a minute, boom, I'm gone.
That has the same energy of Warped Tour 2017 when I went. I ran into, or no, not 2017, Warped Tour 2018. I ran into a bunch of like one of my ex's friends And it was like during like, I think Mayday Parade or some shit. I really don't remember. And I ran into them and I was like, holy fuck, I forgot you existed. And I was like, how are y'all doing?
Emotion just coming up.
And they were like, oh, we're good. And I was like, oh, well, how's my ex? And they were both like, oh, I don't know. We never talk to her anymore. And I'm like, excellent.
I do.
How all this shit comes like randomly full circle just from everyone that loves music, because we've all been in these situations before, and it's just all the wackiness of it. It's honestly beautiful. But
and of course I had to run into my ex's friends at fucking Mayday Parade of all places.
Mayday Parade, one of the bands that invented depression for millennials. I heard that like 2 years ago, and I just started laughing hysterically when I heard it. I'm like, I am using that forever now.
It is correct. We, our bassist, Avery has this T-shirt that says Mayday Parade is an emotion. And in the Better Off music video, you can see him wearing that, and it's still a correct statement to this very day.
That is like an iconic tee for Avery.
It is. Avery has like an iconic fashion sense in a way.
I'd say so.
What's his new
outfit? Really, they always get me.
What's his new outfit that he wears? It's the "All Assholes Live Forever" or something like that. He has that the hoodie.
Oh my God! No, I remember. There's one with I know there's one with a dog on it, and then I know the green checkered button up with the bandana. That's my favorite personally.
Avery is a man of many mysteries, and we love
Avery.
Just bringing it all full force with Avery, just being the man. It's just like, oh yeah, he's there. Don't know what he's doing right now, but he's there. But look at that outfit, my God. Avery has like a lot of interesting stories about like his childhood that just randomly come up at times. Like,
I learned something new every time.
Same
with them.
Like, I remember when we were first becoming friends, he told me, he was like, oh, I have 2 black belts in martial arts, and I went to study with monks in China. And I was like, no, the fuck you didn't. And he was like, no, true story. And I was like, you are now my best friend.
I learned that info when I was in the back seat of a car. For our first weekend, I'm like, oh, I feel safe now.
Avery is the kind of person where you want him to back you up in a fight. Because let me tell you, he is small, but he is fucking deadly. He will kill you with one swipe. I wish I was kidding.
So I'm just going to keep a mental note that when I get to see you guys perform live for the first time, that I'm not going to try and like mess with Avery at all, because I do not want to experience certain death.
It's hard to piss off Avery, but oh my God, I can't think of anything that really grinds his gears, because we haven't seen him like
tire pressure.
Oh yeah, no, that was Avery. That was Avery at his mildest. The fucking Long Island trip. Yeah, no, that was fucking mild for him.
Oh dear God, I feel like we're gonna have to do a second podcast to make sure Avery's on it, and I want to see either that like green shirt bandana combo or the Mayday Parade is an emotion T-shirt on there, because I have a chance to go see Mayday Parade in March when they come to Milwaukee, and just like I could be out there full of my emotions, or I could drive 2 hours north, and instead of being full of my emotions and being like, this is Mayday Parade, I could be full of my emotions and just knocking the hell out of people in a mosh pit, because it's Kill Switch Engage and August Burns Red and Light the Torch. Who wants to miss out on that?
Oh man, that's quite a decision. That reminds me, that All Time Low show that I was talking about earlier. It was around the same time frame as a Kill Switch Engage show that was also coming to Vermont. So my life could have had a completely different trajectory.
I had something similar with that too. This is from a different trajectory and how a show basically changed it, where there was this girl that I was hanging out with, and she wanted me to go to this Halloween party with her 2 days after Halloween, because it was on like 2 days after November 2nd, it was on a Saturday. And I was like, I really don't want to go because I already bought a concert ticket for that night. And my whole purpose was, I want to go see Howard Jones perform because I've never seen him perform before, and he's opening on this show. And I was working the whole entire day, and I'm like, do I even want to go show? Do I just give in and go to this party? It was my mom that told me, she's like, no, you bought the ticket for that show. I know you want to go to it. Just go to it. Okay, I'll go. I dragged myself there. saw the band that opened up. I'm like, okay, I've actually interviewed that band before, which is kind of cool. Then I saw Howard Jones for. I'm like, okay, this is fine. Then Fit for a King goes on, and I'm like, oh, this pit is fun. Now it's just to see who comes up in headlines. A band that I've only ever heard 2 songs of theirs, each one time, and in my mind, I can't remember what the songs were, who they were, what they're about, nothing. And that was the first time I saw Ice Nine Kills.
Yeah.
And that just took me off like, whoa!
I thought for a split second you were going to say Knocked Loose, and that would have also been a correct statement.
No, the first time I've seen Knocked Loose will be on April 29th of this year.
They're fun. I remember seeing
I'm preparing
Knocked
for
Loose.
death.
I saw Knocked Loose right before they blew up. Not to sound like a fucking hipster douche, but no, Warped Tour 20. Shut the fuck up, Braeden. No, I saw in 2016 Warped Tour that I saw Knocked Loose because they were on the Full Sail stage, or was it 2017? I think it was actually 2017. They were on the Full Sail stage, and it was like right when Laugh Tracks had dropped, or like a few months after, or whatever. And there were like, I think at most 30 people in the audience, and like only like 3 people were going hard. And I was like, something tells me that this is going to change in the near future. And now Knocked Loose is literally like the biggest heavy band like right now. So
yeah, they're going to do a headlining run in like March and April. I'm like, I want to go see this, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, they're coming to Milwaukee on April 29th. Yeah, I'm going to probably die at that show because, it's going to be ridiculous. And plus, I'm the kind of person where it's just, the show starts, a pit forms, I'm there. The only time I leave the pit will be in between sets because maybe I want to go get a drink, go take a pee, something like that. But once the music starts, if that pit's going, I am not out of there. Even if I'm dying, dead, feeling like crap, I am still there. Hell, went to go see Rise Against at the end of the year in 2021, and I was feeling horrible the whole entire day, like whole entire week. I woke up from a nap just like before I was going to drive down to Chicago. My legs were completely like exhausted, dead, achy, couldn't even move them.
Right.
I somehow decided like I was so close to deciding not to just skip the show. I'm like, no, I'm gonna drag myself there, tired, still dead. All of a sudden, I'm in the middle of the crowd. Rise Against goes on. They open with Prayer the Refugee. Right when they hit the first note, I swear to God, the pain in my legs, the achiness in my legs, went away. The thought that I might be feeling sick just went away, and I'm just like, it was really like a Deadpool moment. I'm like, hello, superpowers. Like, this is going to be fun. All of a sudden, that first chorus hits, and there's already the pit opening up. I'm like, I was staying in the middle of it already. I'm like, let's fucking go. Just throwing people around. I'm like, this is great. Did not leave for the whole entire thing. So, with Knocked Loose, with any band that has a pit, you will see me there in the pit. I won't leave. Just can't do it. It's not my DNA.
Just out of curiosity, what's everyone's, like, scariest pit moment?
Ooh.
Braeden, do you have one?
I do. I'm gonna need a second.
Okay. I've already got my story in mind, so I'll go first.
I'll go second because I got mine.
Let's do it. I saw, this was probably the weirdest lineup I think I'd ever seen. It was Every Time I Die, Real Friends, Counterparts, Brigades, and Gatherers. If y'all remember Brigades or Gatherers. So Counterparts, and mind you, this is in Burlington, Vermont. It's like the biggest area in Vermont, but it's still basically buttfuck nowhere. And so, but like it was a sold out show. Bunch of pop punk and hardcore kids were there. I was like 17. And so Counterparts goes on, and it was right when Tragedy Will Find Us dropped. And it was the scariest shit I think I'd ever seen. I got climbed on twice. Literally climbed on. Some dude did a fucking running start, like ran up my back and climbed on me. And I was like, I am a minor, sir. Please don't do that. That happened, and then I got punched a couple times, but I mean it's Counterparts, so that's expected. So that happened, and then Every Time I Die goes on. Well, actually no, Real Friends goes on first. They do a good set, and then all the pop punk kids leave after Real Friends. And all of a sudden, it was just like this swarm of sweaty millennial hardcore dudes like thrashing around, and it only meant one thing. Every Time I Die was about to play. And when I tell you, that I did not realize how hard Vermonters went for every time I die. I truly did not expect it. Like, the fucking security guy, I was talking to the security guy being like, oh my god, I've never seen anything like this before. Security guy gets shoved into a merch table. I'm like fearing for my life because like I'm getting like PBR rained down on me. I'm 17 years old and this is like my first like heavy show. And I'm like fucking crying. I literally, big wuss moment, but I literally had to text my mom and be like, can you come get me?
I was so her fucking way sooner. So
I was fucking horrified. Yeah, in hindsight, I probably should have done that when Counterparts went on and the dude fucking like used me as a stairmaster. But you know, life has its fucking ways.
Yeah, it does. Alrighty. So I'm going to do two parts to my story because it happened at the exact same festival. One was scary moment, like the scariest pit I've ever been in. And the other one is the scariest moment I've ever seen in a pit, but then how he reacted was just beautiful. So both happened at the 2021 Blue Ridge Rock Fest out in Virginia.
Oh, shit. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I was there, and I have a whole podcast out on everything we went through because we were definitely a part of a lot of the shit that happened. I'm just going to leave it at that. So it's Friday, the second day we're there, and I've been in the mosh pits every day. I was in there all day Thursday, going crazy for Ghosts Inside, A Day to Remember. Now Friday's there, I'm going crazy, everyone, and I was basically the one, basically going absolutely crazy for Rise Against. After Rise Against was going on one of the other stages, Motionless in White was playing. And I've seen Motionless in White before twice before this moment. And every time I've seen them, I always find their pits to be actually pretty dangerous for the sole purpose of they're large. There's not as many people in them as I'd expect. So there's a lot of space to work with. So when you get hit, I mean, you're going flying. Now, it's dark out. Motionless in White's going on. There's a lot of strobe lights, a lot of purple lights. There's a lot of big dudes in the pit. And I'm not small myself. Like I'm holding my own. But when you can't see people coming through, when you got strobe lights and purple lights in the dark, you got like dirt being kicked up. Every hit, I mean, you're falling down. It's not easy. On top of that, crowd surfers were coming any given instance, and they were not being diverted away from the pit. So we had one guy that was the mosh ref. He had this referee shirt on, referee faceband. He was blowing his whistle, trying to get people move away. But as people were coming in, from the crowd surfers, he was blowing his whistle so we wouldn't drop them, so that they would be, moved to safety. So we actually took care of it. But just the dark, the amount of strobe lights that were going on, the purple lights. Every time I've seen Motion White, the pit has always been one of the more dangerous ones I've ever seen. That one was the one that is still, in my mind, the most dangerous. However, because I brought up the mosh ref, 2 days later, day 4, and day 3, I was in a Lamb of God pit too, and that was just something else. But that was not as dangerous as Motionless in White's based on just the space, because with Lamb of Gods, it was dangerous, but you had so many people in there where the hits weren't as hard because every time you got hit, you bumped into somebody else and you were staying up on your feet.
Everyone kind of just together.
Yeah, pretty much. So now it's the 4th day and We Came as Romans is playing. Yes, I'm going to throw it.
Dear.
So they're playing. I'm in the pit. I'm having a blast. During their final song, during the final breakdown, this one guy jumps in and is going full-on karate kick punching, crowd killing as crazy as possible. He did the same thing the day before for Beartooth, and the mosh ref stopped him at Beartooth, and basically
this sounds like something Avery would do.
we kind of removed him from the pit area for that one. But now it's day 4. It's We Came as Romans. He comes in. The mosh ref goes up to stop him, and this dude just full-on punches the ref in the face. Drops him on the ground, and at this point, I'm on the other end of the pit, so I quickly pivot to turn around to go after this guy, because I'm like, what the fuck are you doing over here? By the time I even turn around, there are 20 other guys going after this crowd killer. They drive him into the barricade, and I shit you not, we're beating the ever-loving fuck out of him, because you don't do that. Are you kidding me? We told you don't do this the previous day. And then you punch the ref in the face who's been helping everybody out. No. We're taking you out. Security comes over, disperses all the people in the pit, takes the guy that was the crowd killer, and just haul him out of there.
I have a follow-up question about the mosh ref.
Yes.
Words I thought I would never say. Did he throw down penalty flags whenever he saw some fuck shit go down?
No, he pretty much broke up anytime any fuck shit. He did not have penalty flags.
Wasted
on him.
opportunity.
Like 1,000 penalty flags. You just toss them all around.
We need some like NFL level shit from this guy.
Yeah. Only other good story I have from that one is, or crazy story from Pitt was Falling River versus Pitt. It was the last show I was seeing at Blue Ridge, and they played Popular Monster to end the set, and I love Popular Monster, so I'm going to go nuts to it. We did the Wall of Death for the breakdown, and of course, when the wall gets going, I'm the only one from my side that goes. So now it's a whole entire wall versus me.
They left you out to dry like that.
They left me out to dry, and I flew. I went flying. Everyone was toppling over me. I had my hands like this. I'm like, I just don't want to get my neck fucking like broken or something. All of a sudden, I'm down there for like 10 seconds, like wondering, is someone gonna like help me up or anything? Then I realized they're helping everybody else up because they were gonna go like one to the next. Like they're just trying to help everybody up, but they couldn't get to me because there were so many people around me. I was just basically like the last one they were gonna end up helping. I'm like, oh, okay, I got this. No big deal. It's fine.
Oh man.
But I literally just went flying. So hopefully we'll see what happens on the 25th because I'm gonna go for it again.
Carry yourself out there.
Braeden,
I've already broken a finger in the pit. I'm not gonna care for myself.
Can't go back, yeah.
And still went back and kept going.
Braeden, do you have a scary pit story?
Well, I've got it's a little bit of so not like a necessarily scary pit story, but I have some scary stories, right? So I'll tell you one little thing. So I was at it was Rock on the Range, 2017. It was Columbus, Ohio, and Metallica was headlined last night. It was like a 3-day festival. My dad and I went. It was like my birthday present, right? Mm-hmm. And we're there waiting to see Metallica, and we're waiting out probably in the main stage for like 2 hours. And Volbeat's the opener, and right before Volbeat comes on, it starts pouring like torrential downpours, thunder, lightning, hurricane warnings, the whole thing. So we're in like the middle of nowhere in this like stadium of like 50,000 people or something like that, and we're maybe like 150 people back, something like that. So we're there, and we're getting like these alerts on our phones that like there's a hurricane warning and that like we should be evacuating, but because there's like just 50,000 people general admission, like how, like where are we gonna go? Like this is what everybody who is at this festival been waiting for all weekend, so you can't whatever. So we're all just like staying there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours in like dark, like rain, like heavy rain. And I just remember like I don't know if I was gonna make it out of that. I was cold. Then I remember I wanted to leave, so I ended up just like crowd surfing to the front, and then my dad and I skedaddled. That was a rough concert story, not really a pit. No, I have a different story that's like kind of a different vein. This was when I was 15, and I was my first like metal band, Hangwire, right? We got the opportunity to do like a Pittsburgh battle of the bands.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
Now who knows how legit this was, right? But we were there and we were playing it. We got to the second round, and it was judged by audience cheering. Like they'll at the end of the night, you know, all the bands who played, they'll say the name and the audience cheers.
Oh, so it's rigged. It's what you're saying.
This is what I'm getting to. The only reason that my band won is because my mom can just throw her voice and just fill the room. So thank God for her. But after there was like a couple, like 5 other bands maybe that night that were like really in the running. And the band that went on before us, they were like a pretty established like Pittsburgh band, like, you know, all maybe like 30s, 25-year-old people. They had like a whole roadie, whole crew, shirts, merch, like way past our level that my 15-year-old band was.
And they were at a battle of the bands?
Exactly. Makes you wonder, right?
Yeah.
But so we end up winning, and I'm all excited. I'm just like talking to the crowd, saying hi. And then this lady comes up to me who I assumed was with, she was like the wife, roadie, whatever, someone in the previous band who was like neck and neck with us, whatever you want to say. And she came up to me and she like shook my hand. She brought me real close and she goes, "I just want you to know you suck and you didn't deserve it."
What?
I'm not kidding. This is what was said.
I just want you to know you suck.
And you don't deserve this.
They said that to a fucking kid.
I was a child. My mom's standing next to me, and I like look at this lady, and I'm like, "Are you nuts? Like, what are you doing?"
Oh,
But whatever. Like that just happens. I'm like kind of yelling at her. I'm like, "Fuck you!" Like whatever. And other members of this entourage, this band, they're throwing chairs at people in the audience. And the security's kicking them out while this is happening. At the front door, the security's dragging out people of this band because they're throwing fucking chairs. Because some 15-year-old bands like won the Pittsburgh Battle of the Bands. It was crazy. It was crazy.
I'm fucking crying. We lost to two fucking high schoolers. That really, it reminds me of the fucking show I was talking about where every time I die, all the pop punk kids disappear and then all of a sudden the fucking angry, like, millennial hardcore dudes.
It was just like that, just a wave. It was like...
I wonder where they're at now.
They're probably blown up. They're probably...
They're probably still playing Pittsburgh Battle of the Bands, honestly.
Yeah, probably. They haven't won yet. They're still trying.
or maybe they got banned from doing it ever again because of their Bobby Knight impersonations were not on par with the chair throwing because, you know, at least they know who Bobby Knight is. I mean, we don't even know what the name of this Pittsburgh band is, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, I don't know their name. They're probably disbanded. You know what I mean? Whatever. They were probably so disgruntled from that night. They couldn't bear.
Oh my god.
Probably.
Ironically enough, this reminds me of a funny fucking story for back when I was a theater kid. I did a production of Grease in a Catholic town, and for some reason, your story is reminding me a lot of this.
Was there an uproar?
Only from a parent.
Why was there a kissing scene and the parents started throwing chairs? Like, this is a Catholic town. We can't take this.
Yes. No, actually, we had a makeout. I shit you not. So we had a makeout bench. And of course, we were like high schoolers, so we were stage kissing because ew. But
ew,
no, but like fucking there was this parent of the daughter. I can't fucking talk. There was this parent and their daughter was playing Frenchie one of the show nights. And that parent literally on the day we're supposed to do the show, it's the last day of the fucking show, of the show. We did the show for like a few days. Last day, and the parent goes backstage with like a list of demands and gave it to the director, and one of them was, you need to get rid of the makeout bench because making out leads to teenage sex, which leads to abortion. I shit you not. The cops were called that day. I wish I was kidding.
That's a succession.
It's a...
One day you're bench kissing, you know?
And then, one day you're bench kissing, next day you're getting
you're waiting in the waiting room.
Oh my god. And meanwhile, while that parent was doing that shit, the girl who was playing Frenchie was going around like fucking... You're all, like all the girls in the fucking girls' dressing room. You're all fucking sluts for doing this show. Made all the fucking girls cry. We have to delay our show by 30 minutes because we're trying to get everybody composed.
What the fuck?
And then the parent will like, oh my god. After the show was done, we changed the shit. We got rid of the stupid bench. Whatever. Please, what the fuck ever. Oh, another problem. I was supposed to get pants. My character was supposed to get pants in the show, and they were really insulted by that. And I was like, I'm insulted because I'm 16 and I'm supposed to be getting pants in front of adults. But that's just my opinion. But,
apparently, it's too risque.
Yeah. So like after the show's done, the parents go outside. They're like, that same parent who did the bullshit is freaking out. One of the other mothers goes up and puts their hand on their shoulder and was like, hey, you need to calm down. It's going to be okay. You just assaulted me. I'm going to call the cops. The cops came. What? They called the fucking cops. No. We had to lock down the theater. My mom was texting me being like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, I don't know, but I hate Catholics now. So I don't know why, but your chair throwing story and shit just reminds me of that.
Irrational anger. Yeah.
Imagine being so mad at kids. Imagine being mad that like a shitty high school band won because their family came, and you have such a bruised ego that you're actually offended that you didn't win.
Oh my god, yeah. Tyler, the reason why I couldn't hold my in like any sort of like laughter in that is just the sheer fact that I went to Catholic school my whole entire life except for college. So just like being able to relate to that every step of the way is just so on point.
And here's my thing. I have nothing against people who like have their own like set faith or whatsoever, you know? If you want to believe like what you want to believe, go for it. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to tell you what to fucking do. But man, we were just 16 and 17-year-olds trying to put on a shitty production of Grease. Like the last thing you should do is just protest that. We had a crowd of no more than 50 people like each night. No one cared about this show. We just wanted to do it. Huh?
I was like, who is this hurting? Like, who are you like, yeah, that's
nobody except for the parents of the kids in the cast. No one fucking cared.
Oh my god. Holy shit. Oh my guys, I'm just gonna say this right now. We're definitely gonna need to do a second podcast because this is fucking hysterical.
Let's do it.
I feel a lot more stories coming through. We gotta yeah, definitely.
We have our own show stories for Sounds and Scenarios. We got an arsenal of shit. So definitely let's
how about this? Because we're about an hour and a half into this already. So how about this? We call this one part 1, and we do part 2 a little bit later in 2022. We bring on Avery, and then we bring in got another song. We can kind of talk about that a little bit, and then bring in all these crazy show stories once again. But and also bring in Avery too. I gotta say it again because I feel like that's just gonna add even more to it.
Oh, Avery has more shit than any of us combined.
That would be like a 6-part series of that's gonna be great.
We're gonna make a whole fucking saga. It's gonna be the new Star Wars, except it's no one's
Avery's Adventures. That's what it is.
Avery's Adventures, yeah.
Avery's Adventures in this film.
Everyone's gonna be like, "What the fuck is happening? And why is there a 6-part series on this fucking local band?"
Because it's hysterical. If I'll put it this way: if I get a band that's gonna end up making me remove my chair and laugh on the floor hysterically, I want them back on the podcast. I'm not sure if I've ever full on just had to crouch on the ground and just start laughing hysterically. I have had those moments where I fall out of my chair with bands like Modern Day Escape because those guys are freaking hysterical. Along Came a Spider and God, is it Empty? Yeah, Empty. Just you guys are already up there in the lore of this. So when it comes to promoting this podcast, it's gonna be just talk about a lot of great stuff, but then this last half hour is just pure insanity of the best.
So much for promoting our new double singles, Stalemate and Hey Jealousy, out now on all streaming platforms.
well, how about this? Because I remember we didn't go really through the instrumentals or the vocals or anything, but one thing we'll do to close out this podcast before we do the whole entire goodbye, so that kind of stuff, is I got my little press release overall kind of paragraph of what I thought of the song. So let me share it with you guys right here. Overall, when it comes to an emo song in 2022, Sound Scenarios is taking their idea of emo music, a lot of influence from the mid 2000s, and bringing it right back to life. The rougher emo style guitar is prevalent here to really add to the emotion of stress from dealing with the grief and pain of a broken relationship or feeling stuck. But the softer parts of guitar in the verses help this emotion build so the chorus pops you with the reminder of what is really causing your anxiety in this. And then the vocal style from Tyler being more straightforward on both the verse and the chorus really work well to set the tone for the verses and the anxiety build for the chorus to show us where your troubles and where your anxiety is really coming from in this specific instance. If you've ever been in a relationship or felt stuck in a relationship that has made you feel, if you're like the other person, not sure if they're still feeling the sting of the breakup as you still do, this song will put that anxiety into a tangible sound and a tangible emotion for you.
Thank you kindly.
All of you. It's wonderful.
And that's how we sum up Stalemate by Sounds and Scenarios. But guys, as we bring this podcast to a close, one thing I always like to do is give you guys a chance to say whatever you want to say, plug whatever you want to plug, promote whatever you want to promote at the end of the podcast. So guys, the floor is yours.
Braeden, you got anything you want to say?
I just want to say, I love these guys. Love Tyler. Love Avery. I'm so thankful that they let me into the little world, and I'm able to, I don't know, bring something to it and just be a part of it. I'm just so happy. I've never been more excited about our project. I couldn't be happier. And
we're happy to have you.
Oh wow, this is just such a great time. It's felt like a dream since I joined. A little cliche, but it's accurate, you know.
Hey, cliches are only cliches because they're true a lot of the time.
Exactly.
But yeah, in terms of promo shit, Stalemate, Hey Jealousy is out now. If you also want to find our older shit, we have an EP that we dropped back in 2021 called Maybe Someday Will Bloom. If you're a slut for 80s shit, you'll love it.
Full of bangers.
We also have a split EP with The Silent Mile. Also has some good stuff on it. When the Fame Goes to Die also came out in 2021 too. That was a great song to work on. Also really, really interesting lyrically. And we've got more music on the horizon. So keep your eyes peeled.
Okay, I got it.
Hey, no, if you're just no, you go ahead.
That's some Clockwork Orange shit right there, man. Now you need to put in the fucking milk in your eye. Was it milk they put in their eyes, or no? They drank drugged milk, right? Yeah. I don't fucking know. I don't know,
but I gotta watch some weird ass like movie right now, like this, like ah. But as I bring this podcast to a close, let me end this with 3 very specific things. First, I mean, you guys just listened to this podcast we did with Sound and Scenarios, and there was a lot to unpack here, especially in the first half, when we talked about a lot of things with just different songs, the history of the band, a lot of that, then went into the idea behind Stalemate, and then, of course, what I feel like is going to be the highlight of the podcast for everybody is just the insane, funny stories. And you're not going to want to miss out on anything with Sound Scenarios, whatever they're coming out with. You're not going to want to miss out on the band. You're going to want to follow them on all social media platforms, find them on YouTube, stream their music, buy some merch, whatever you can do. But instead of having to go search it up yourself, what I want you guys to do is take a look at the description of the podcast, whether on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart Radio, or Amazon. You're going to see a section that says Find Sound and Scenarios Online. Links, labels, everything is there for you to do a one-click, one-stop shop. Click on it. It's going to take you to their Facebook page. Click it Twitter. Click it Instagram. Click it YouTube. Click it Spotify. Click it merch. All that stuff. So it's just going to be as easy access as possible. So you guys have no chance not to get into Sound Scenarios. Now, guys, that's the first part. Second part is, when I have guests in the podcast, and I enjoy having the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise to those bands. And guys, there is no doubt in anybody's mind that you guys have definitely hit on this promise. So the promise does not start with if. If implies possibility of not happening. Promise starts with when, which means it's going to happen, but the date still to be determined. So when I get to see you guys perform live for the first time, my promise to you is this. First round's on me. Tyler will get you something else than alcohol, though, because I know you said it earlier. We'll get you something, whatever you want, but again, first round's on me.
Hell yeah. I am into
that. Go far.
Bro, we'll bring you backstage. We'll bring you fucking... You won't even have to pay for general admission. We got you.
I'll come backstage. I'll bring the White Claw, the cranberry juice, the Bacardi Limon, the lemon wedge I'm making for you.
That's all you need. Wedges. Just bring that to the door guy, and he'll be like, understood. And he'll bring you backstage. We got you.
We'll just make it known. And guys, the third thing is, I cannot end this podcast in all good conscience with a goodbye for a number of reasons. 1, the promise has been made, and I do not want to break my promises. 2, you guys have more music coming out, and I feel like we definitely need a part 2 to this podcast, so we're going to fucking make it happen. So you guys are going to be coming back on the podcast. I'm going to get a chance to see you live, so goodbye. Fuck no, it's not goodbye. Guys, this is See you later.
See you later.
Take it easy.
Well, folks, that was my interview with Tyler and Braeden from the band Sounds and Scenarios. Again, I want to thank the guys for being on the podcast. This one was absolutely incredible, hysterical, funny. I mean, I fell out of my chair during that Grease story. You got to be kidding me. That's fantastic. Also, when it comes to Sound and Scenarios, yes, you love the podcast, you love the insight, you love their storytelling, and you love the hilarity that you've heard of. Absolutely, you're going to want to know more about them. So you're going to want to follow along with them. Link description of the podcast for their social media accounts, where to stream music, buy some merch, and check them out. So when they come to your area to play a live show, you know about it. Also, be sure to follow the Chord Progression Podcast as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Be sure to subscribe to the Chord Progression Podcast on YouTube and stream us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart Radio, and Amazon. Whichever you prefer to get your podcast with. We got you covered right there. It helps us bring on even more incredible bands and more incredible stuff. Plus, you're going to want to know when the next podcast with Sounds and Scenarios comes out in 2022. Because do you think we're going to do this again? Yeah, we're doing this again. Are you kidding me? This is one of my favorite podcasts of all time. This was hysterical, insightful, everything you want in a podcast. Also, thank you to Phoenix Fitness and Custom Debuts for the sponsorship on the podcast. I will see you guys next week. And on that note, that's going to be for me, guys. Thank you for watching, listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. And how do we end this again? My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of them. The big, healthy, and hearty. See ya!